So are we actually going to do this? Yeah, we are. Let's go. So one of my boys is really into football, and I'm talking lives, eats, breathes football, sleeps with a football kind of thing. And if he came to me and told me that he was going to wait until he got recruited and drafted into the NFL to hire a coach and a strength training and do nutrition until he made it to the NFL, I would tell him that is so silly. And you also would roll your eyes and be like, why are you waiting until you get recruited to the NFL? You need to start now with training, start now with coaching, start now with your nutrition. And what I'm going to talk about today is this is what exactly I'm hearing from so many entrepreneurs when it comes to getting support in their business. It's when I make it, then I will get support. And so we're going to talk about a very timely conversation, in my opinion, because there's a lot of things in the air right now. So Kate and I were having this reflection on when did we decide it was the right time to invest and what was the cost of waiting when we didn't. So we're going to have a little bit of a pull back the curtain moment on that and talk through how do you know if a program or a coach is the right fit and why waiting is actually more expensive than investing. So, Kate, welcome back to the podcast. Are you ready for
Well,
this one?
I'm so ready for this one because I have a lot to say.
Girl, let's do it. So, why don't you start with what you got to say?
Sure. Okay. So let's talk about, first of all, like, should you even be investing right now? Because anybody who's trying to sell you something for the most part is going to tell you, oh, yeah, you've got to invest right now in my thing. And then that gets confusing because it's like, well, which thing? What do I need? So like let's talk about, do you need to invest right now, or is now a time for you to implement what you've already learned, what you've already done, that kind of thing? Or like what kind of investment? Because there's different kind of coaches, you know. Lonnie gave the example of her son wanting to join the NFL, and the coach that he has for Pee Wee football when he's a little kid is not the coach that's going to get him into the NFL, but that is the coach he needed for Pee Wee football. So, like, what kinds of coaches do you need at each stage? I think that's important to talk about before we talk about like how much to invest or who to invest with and that kind of thing. Don't you think, Lonnie?
Absolutely. There's different coaches for different stages. And sometimes we have these aspirational coaches, like someday I'm going to work with that person. I have one of those in mind of like someday I'm going to work with them. But it's a little bit out of like I'm not quite ready or I'm not qualified. Some of the coaches have qualifications for you. Like they set you have to be making this or you have to have this much experience or you have to have this size of a team. There can be their own qualifications, but also it might be a leap for you. You just might say, I'm not quite ready yet, but how do you know if you're not ready? And when are you ready for the next up level coach? And that's where like the fears and hesitations come in of I should wait until I have more money comes up. These are the things that I've heard recently. What if it doesn't work? Maybe I need to figure out more on my own first and then I'll hire you. So these are actual statements said to us in the last few weeks by the women that we're talking to. And there's nothing wrong with these. This is a fear. This is a hesitation. This is something to consider. So how do we bring in the reality check to these questions of like these fears and hesitations that are coming up? Because like you said, it's just there's going to be a coach for me at every stage, but how do I know what if I'm worried about the money? Do I need to have this figured out? How do I give a reality check to some of these questions?
Yeah. So I think one of the first things to ask yourself, like, let's get real. Do I need a skill or knowledge that I am either not going to be able to get on my own, or it's going to take me a really long time to develop on my own?
Yeah, that's a really great question. When you think about that, is it like also thinking, okay, this skill I could learn on my own, but how long will it take me to learn it on my own? That's another thing.
Yeah. For instance, sales pages. When I first started my membership in 2020, I didn't really know how to make a good sales page. So I had really bad sales pages, and it caused me to have to do a lot more like conversation type selling, which is not my strength, not my preference. And until I hired someone Like I started working with a coach that, like a sales coach that showed me like these are all the pieces. This is how people should feel. Like I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And when I put that piece in place, then I had a passive funnel that was making me like I could make a lot more money a lot more quickly. But if I hadn't made that investment, I would have been continuing to do kind of cherry picking sales, which is not ideal for a low ticket offer at all because you're not making a ton of money on each sale. And so having to go out and get each individual one doesn't make a lot of sense. But I didn't have the skills I needed yet. And I didn't really even understand what those skills were to have a truly scalable offer where it was like, I'm going to do this once and it's going to sell over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's not everyone's business model. Certainly, a lot of the women in our program are selling high ticket, and that more connected business model makes sense for them. But I didn't even really understand that there was a difference until I hired my first coach.
Absolutely. And the truth is, you could have learned all of the sales pages tactics from Googling and you watching YouTube videos that are free and maybe even a low ticket course, right? You could have figured it out at some point. However, it probably would have taken you quite a while. And you and I both, especially in that stage when we were in business, we had you were homeschooling, you had your farm, you had things that you were juggling. And I know for myself, I used to have those same fears and hesitations about like, oh, I can learn it. I could just figure it out. And then once I figured that out, then I'll hire somebody. And I figured things out. Not, don't get me wrong. I'm a go-getter. I love to learn, but ended up being a serial learner and a slow, distracted serial learner. I would be learning things, but I didn't know how to implement them for my business. I didn't know how to integrate them into my business. I didn't know how it would work for me. And so there's a lot more testing and confusion and frustration, and it just felt so dang slow.
Yeah, like I think there's a lot to be said for like working with a coach doesn't just give you like informational access and support, it also gives you like accountability. So when I work with a coach, I always move much, much faster. If it's a good coach, I will say, and we can talk about this, I've hired a bad coach. And I think before we end the episode, we should talk about like what kind of questions should we ask on a call to see if a coach is a good fit. And I shouldn't say I've hired a bad coach. I hired a coach that wasn't a good fit for me.
I do agree. Like hiring the coach allows me to really determine focus because I wanted to make back my investment. I was like, all right, I'm putting my money down. I'm motivated now to get really focused. But when I was doing it on my own, I was like, oh, I'm gonna look over here and I'm gonna look over here and I'm gonna search this. Maybe this is a good idea. And I just kind of was more relaxed and just I didn't have the accountability to implement what I was learning. I also didn't have the accelerated success that I could have and did have once I hired a coach because they helped me to really push through the ideas that we would come up with. Instead of questioning and waiting till they're perfect, they taught me, okay, you need to do this messy. And as we do, like basically launch the plane and then finish building it while you're flying, it really allowed me to have so much accelerated success because I wasn't waiting for perfect or waiting for some secret that I thought I was missing. They were like, no, 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 there's nothing else to do except for to start. And that's game changer.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it's feels so much more doable when you know you have someone helping you build the plane as you're flying it than if you're like, okay, I'm going to figure this out and you don't even really know where you're going. Like that's another thing is like if you're hiring a coach, hire someone that knows where you're going. I hired a coach and I hired her because she got results from my friends. I'm always building relationships and seeing like, well, who are you working with? Who's your VA? Who's your coach? And early on in my online business, and this was not my first coach, it was like my third coach. I accidentally made really good choices with my first two.
That's good.
Yeah. And then I got to my third coach and I was like, oh, well, my friends work with her and they're getting results. So, and she was really expensive compared to what I had invested before. Just to be like transparent, business coaching, like you shouldn't expect it to be cheap. My first coach was cheap though. She was like 200 a month. So I signed up with a higher ticket coach and she was for me a big investment at the time. She was like 2,500 a month. which was a big chunk of what I was making. And I didn't really ask her a lot of questions on our discovery call. I had made my decision before we even had a call because my friends were getting results with her. But I didn't think like, I didn't compare our offers or the way that we like to do business. I just jumped in because I decided, well, like if my friends are getting results, then I'll get results. And the first thing she told me on the first day was to scrap my membership and start a group coaching program, which is totally out of alignment for me. And I had only like I love my memberships. I think memberships are like my thing. And I just felt like she didn't understand that my offer was going to be a lower ticket. And that's because she was not a low ticket offer coach. And I didn't do that research up front.
Yeah. So it wasn't like she was trying to necessarily do something that wouldn't make money. It's just she didn't take the time to really listen to you and what her expertise and what her goals and how she ran her business and what she was familiar with was for a particular style of business.
Exactly. And honestly, at this point, I'm grateful for that experience because it really influences, I think, like how I interact and empowered for more, how we make sure that like everybody is getting a tailored experience and we truly see everyone in the program. And that's not what I got there, but I also was responsible because I didn't ask the questions like, am I going to get this here? Can you help me with what I want to do? I never even asked her because I just assumed like a coach is a coach is a coach, and it's not true.
Yes. And that's probably where I would start with when you are thinking about hiring somebody is really understanding like what is it that I want them to do for me? Am I wanting them to tell me how to do exactly what they did to build their business? Because a lot of coaches, that's what their platform is. That's what they're teaching is this is how I built my business and this is how I'm going to tell you to build yours. So build yours just like mine. Maybe there's some caveats, some little bit of customization in there, but for the most part, you're going to look like a cookie cutter of them. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. And there can be a lot of success with it, but it also leads to a lot of failures, which is something that Kate and I talk about a lot because we don't want that to be a pattern with the people that we work with because we know the two of us are both high drive brilliant women, but we work very differently. So, how can we lean into our strengths and in our weak spots, allow coaching to support us, to help us see what we can't see, to help us overcome? That's what we need somebody to step in and do more than, hey, copy me or you're not going to have success.
Yeah, exactly. So some questions you might ask a coach on a discovery call are like, can you tell me about how you work with your clients? Is there a framework they have to follow, or like what are the options of working with you kind of thing? And leave it open-ended so they can really tell you about themselves.
That's really good. Yeah, and ask them about, how many different industries do you work exclusively with one type of industry, one type of product, different pricing points? That's another really important question to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, what are the deliverables? If it is it only group calls? If it's only group calls, what time are those? I signed up for a group coaching program once without realizing that I would not be able to make the calls.
Yeah, and not every program is like solely based off of the calls. Like if you can't come to the call, you don't give value. There's a mix. I like to look for a mix of opportunity that they have either some trainings. I definitely don't want just like a long, never-ending course where I'm going to be lost if I don't take the whole thing. That's just not in reality for me. I don't want another course. I just don't get enough out of courses. That's just not my jam, but I do enjoy and really thrive off of short, targeted trainings. So I want a coach who has trainings I can watch and gain knowledge from and take action from. I want the group calls. I want a way to connect with them throughout the week between calls. There's multiple things that can be added into a program, but if it's a program that's calls only and that's the bulk of the support, you better make sure you can make those.
And then for me personally, something I always look for is like, what if I have a question come up? How am I going to get that answered between calls? Like, is it just a Facebook group? Can I have Voxer? Can I have Voxer access to more than one person? I love it when there's like a group of experts or like a few different people that I can ask about something. And I have that in between calls. A lot of times, actually, to be honest with you, especially if I'm in like a maintaining phase, I won't even really go to calls personally, just because, like, if I'm in a maintaining phase, the coach has told me what I'm doing, I'm working on it. I don't necessarily need support all the time, but I stay in the program like to keep the accountability, to keep in my maintenance, and then to be able to ask questions in between calls.
Yeah, that's really powerful because there are seasons where you're not really like doing a lot of new things. You're growing what you've built. And in those seasons, I still need a coach. I still need somebody there supporting me, making, hey, where do you want to go next? Now that you've gotten comfortable here, how do we scale this? What capacity can you do next? And having somebody walk through the journey with me and really see me, get to know me, see what's successful, then can help me take the next leap into the next level of my business.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we're not always growing either. Like sometimes we're taking the next leap, and sometimes we're just like we're in where we want to be, and we're still gonna have questions like, oh my gosh, this is going on with my team. What do I do? Or like, I'm ready to do Facebook ads for this offer, but like I know that I'll need to do some footwork between kind of things, like in between coaching almost. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So I want to pivot a little bit with this conversation to talk about like what is the cost of waiting and why it's the most expensive decision to wait sometimes.
Yeah. Well, for instance, I've had several sales calls lately. And I don't want to make it sound like we don't close our sales calls, because actually we
Oh
do.
yeah.
We close most of our
Yeah.
sales calls. But I've had several sales calls in the last like 6 months where the person, my specialty is sales pages and low ticket offers. And so I tend to talk to people that have the low ticket offers. And I tell them, I'm not mysterious. I tell them, like, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need a high converting sales page with really clear messaging. And you're going to need a funnel that functions. And they're like, okay, I'm going to go make that, and then I'm going to join your program once I get 50 people in. Like, ma'am, you need me to help you do those things. Like, we could do it so much faster. We could do it in a couple of months, like 3 months. If we do it together, we can get those 50 people in. But if you haven't done this before, it's going to take you so much more time. And you may even get fatigued. That's one thing I noticed for myself. If I'm doing something new and I'm trying to figure it out and it's not hitting, sometimes it hits and you're like, yeah, I did this on my own. It's great. Sometimes if it's not hitting, I'll quit. Like I'm
Mhm.
like, this doesn't work. But it's working for some people. I didn't take the time to make it work. And that's what I fear, especially for things that take more time to build out, like a really clear messaging and a really clear sales funnel, whether that's a sales page or more like DM messaging and or workshops or whatever you're going to do. That piece right there is what you usually will need the most help with.
Yes. And like you just said, you can absolutely DIY it yourself. And sometimes you might have that moment where you're like, oh man, it worked. It worked right away. But what we have also seen, and I've experienced this myself, is I put it together and I'm like, oh, it didn't work. So then I stop. But what the advantage of is that thing would have worked, like that sales page would have worked if an expert had looked at it and said, oh, you just need to shift this around. The messaging wasn't quite on point. It wasn't clear. This part didn't connect the dots for your audience. And with that secondary look at what I'm building from an expert point of view, somebody who has experience, now I can accelerate my success with that part of my business to see the growth. And I get the return on the investment so much faster. Because we're either way, I pointed this out to myself once and now I use it again. Is either way, I'm spending something on my business. I'm spending time or I'm spending money to get more money. That's just how it works. This is CEO companies, big business, corporations, small mom and pop brick and mortars. You're either spending your time or you're spending your cash in investing with other people to help you. Either way, you're spending something to get money back. So keep that in mind. And I just at some point have to stop and say, I'm not willing to spend my time this way anymore because I want accelerated results.
Absolutely. And the investment for coaching, like you should always be looking for an ROI. Like you
Hmm.
shouldn't just be spending. You should be looking like, what am I going to get back from this? When I work with someone, I'm like, I kind of expect them to get a 10x ROI. And it might not be in the 6 months, it might not be in a year, but over the next like 5 years, taking what you've learned from me, you better make 10 times what you spent here. Like it doesn't make sense not to. Especially if you're learning like the sales pieces.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like we're talking business coaches right now, but there's other kinds of coaches that we have hired to like we're like, okay, how does this directly connect with money? It really doesn't like directly connect with sales. So it might be like a mindset coach, a money coach. You and I are doing some money coaching sessions. I'm so excited about this because I just want to gain more knowledge on how to help more people with money mindset things. So we're gonna get support ourselves so that we can turn around and support our clients, but also it's gonna be a good thing for me. So those don't always equal out like, oh, this exact 10x of what I put in because you can connect the dots for I built this, now it brings this money. So it might be a little bit ethereal type of support. But when you work on your mindset, your productivity, organization, even like a house cleaner, things like that, house organizer, the results are so huge when you take what they are expertise and what they do for you and you implement it. It then can allow you the space to build something bigger in your business. It can allow you to have a better mindset so you can stop hesitating or feeling the imposter syndrome or thinking that there's never going to be enough. And that's also a part of that profit factor and that return on investment that we need to factor into when we're looking at hiring support.
Absolutely. Like the truth is, at the end of the day, why do we want successful businesses? There's probably a plethora of reasons, but they kind of all sum up to like we want a happier life, a life we enjoy more. And like these things you're talking about, like those go towards that.
Yes, exactly. And profits are, we measure profits in four ways. Personally and in Empowered for More is we want you to have a profit in income, obviously, but we also want you to have a profit in time, a profit in energy, and a profit in fulfillment because that's truly what we want. We don't just want the cash. That's not fulfilling. All those pieces put together allows you to have the life and the business that you want. So getting the support that you need in order to make that happen is really key. So how do you know if a coach or a program is right for you? Let's end with this.
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit earlier, like asking the right questions. When I am looking at a coach, now that I've been through a few and I've made good choices and choices that weren't good for me, the first thing I know I do is I go and I look at their content. Like I kind of skim it. I'm like, what kind of words are they using? I am the kind of person who, like, I'm building freedom focused business. That's important to me. So if they're like, sometimes you see really tough girl messaging, like hustle culture messaging, and it's like, oh, you're not showing up every day. That's why you're not making the cash. I'm like, this is not the coach for me.
Hmm.
I need someone who understands that, like, I need my space and I need to make money. Um, so I go and I look at their messaging. And then if the messaging is in line, I'll book a call and I ask good questions on the call. And Lonnie, I know you have like a set of good questions that you like to ask or like be asked. So,
Yeah, so I like them to ask me about what is the learning style and business model that I'm going to be using, and will that be something that they can implement? So them telling me, okay, asking, what am I going to learn? How am I going to be able to get support with implementation? That's a huge thing. When they ask me about my experience, I love it when people question and say, hey, who have you worked with? Have you worked with somebody similar to my industry or in my industry? Because that's important. I don't want to work with somebody who has never heard of or thought of or been a part of anything in that world. And I will say, as a coach who has stepped into places that are unfamiliar, I've been honest and say, I've never worked with anybody who does your business model, but here's what I can do and I know to be true, and here's how I would approach it. And I'm honest about that. Because not every industry has niche specific coaches. So being able to say, like, here's how all the ways that we'll work with you to get you support, and here's our experts that would be able to help you based off of what you do. This is the industries we've worked with before. That's a really important question to ask as well.
Yes. And another question I like to ask is like, what happens with your clients when they don't get the results? Like you've made a plan together, um, they go out to do it and it doesn't work, it fails. Like, what is the next step for you? Because what I want to hear is like, we're going back to the drawing board and we're making a new plan, like there's support here. But if that coach looks at me like a deer in headlights or gets defensive, I know that's not the person for me because I understand that in business, there's ups and downs. Like, I'm not
Yep.
new here. I know that we don't only always win. And one thing I do see is like some coaches are good at selling and not good at delivering. And I want a coach that can confidently speak about how they're delivering, what we're learning, and like, what are we doing if it doesn't work?
I love that question. And I get asked that quite a bit actually. Like, what if this doesn't work? I hear you. That's the scary question. And I don't have a crystal ball or a magic wand to make sure that everything works the way we expect it to. But my response personally, and what I've appreciated from other coaches I've worked with who have responded this way, is they say, if something is not working, there's two things that we always want to come at with our approaches. One, making sure you're doing the work. Like you have to also commit to show up and do the work. We can't expect coaches to be like, "Oh, I hired you. I should have results." No, they're not running the plays with you. So let's go back to the NFL analogy. My son's coach doesn't get on the field and play with them. He stands on the sideline, gives them guidance, and then tells them go back out on the field and do it again. That's what they're there for. So if your expectation is that the coach is going to do the work for you, you're hired the wrong person. You need an OBM or a business partner, or you want to be a silent partner in your business. So that's number one, is making sure that you're willing to take the action on whatever a coach is instructing you to do. And then the second part is also being willing to be vulnerable and honest and come to them and say, "Hey, I feel like something is not connecting. Can you help me problem solve this?" Because my commitment to my clients is I'm 100% in with helping you figuring out where the blocks are, what to do, all of that. You should be 100% into communicating, "Hey, I'm working this and I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to do what the actions you're saying so that we can get the results." One of the biggest frustrations I've had personally as a coach with people who I'm seeing not seeing like get results in when working with me is we every time come to a call, they're switching the plan. So if every week or every other week you're like, that didn't work for me, I need to do something different. Or I didn't really show up and I didn't really like doing this connection strategy. So I need a plan. And I'm like, dude, we have a plan. You just won't execute the plan. You won't stick to the plan. You won't commit to the plan. So you also need to be okay with saying to yourself, if this coach tells me to do something, am I willing to trust her to say, I'm going to go all in? I don't understand. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm going to go all in until you just tell me to change something different.
Yeah, I love that. And then going back to like the sports analogy, like if your business is a race, you're not racing against other people, but if it's a race and you keep getting like a quarter of the way in or halfway in, and then you're like, you know what? I'm going to start over. That's what that's
Mhm.
like when you're like, I need a new plan. I need to do something different. And you go back to the beginning. And I saw this when I launched Printables and More. And like you said, I did real messy and I was fine with like it being messy and going minimum viable and just like going all in. I had friends that started businesses at the same time who that same year started over like three times. And then the next year started over a couple of times and are still trying to decide what they're going to do. They keep
Mhm.
starting their race over and they're not making any traction. They're not getting where they want to go, which is the finish line.
Exactly. Or they're like, now my son is in track and field and he's like, well, I think I'm going to do the hurdles. No, I'm going to do the long jump. I'm going to do this. And like every other day, it's like he's changing to a different event in the track and field area. And I'm like, okay, this is confusing. How are you going to ever get good at doing the hurdles if you keep switching to different events in track and field? So that's the same way for a lot of business owners that I see. I'm like, Oh, you started this. Oh no, no, now you're doing this. Nope, now I'm doing low ticket. Now I'm doing a membership. Now I'm doing a group coaching program. Now I'm doing one-on-one. Oh, now I'm doing like it's just all over the place. And it's because they didn't win instantly that first time. They just took it as, oh, that didn't work for me. And I'm all about aligning ourselves in our business. Don't get me wrong. I am 100% an advocate for being in alignment in your business. But that doesn't mean I'm super comfortable every second of my business, that I'm not pushing myself, that I don't have to do the obnoxious exercises and routines that I could do without, but it's part of the process. And so if you're not willing to commit to, all aspects of the game, that's probably why you're not getting the results, not because you don't have a good coach on the sideline.
Yeah, totally. And so we talked about what do you look for in a coach? Like, what is that process like? So if that person is a good fit for you and if this is what you need. So then what you have to ask yourself is if this is the right fit, if this is what I should obviously be doing, and you're still like, but I'm gonna wait. What's behind that?
Mhm. Ask yourself what is holding you back from investing. Is it fear? Is it the belief that you should be able to do it on your own? And like a little bit of pride in there. That's also part of it. The other part is just really step back and say, do I even want to take the work? Or am I believing that it's going to not work because I don't truly believe that this business is capable of taking me further? And that's a question. And honestly, one of my businesses that I had when I first started, it was good. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my dream passion. I really enjoyed the process of it. I love learning about it, but more than anything, I love talking to other women in that industry about their businesses and how to grow it. And that was what I focused on anytime we got into a room together is I was like, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And then when they would talk about my business, it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't really want to do that.
I want to talk
Because
about your business.
right, because I didn't really want that business to grow bigger because of what I knew it required of me to be able to take to the next level. And because I did not want to show up that way because that was that industry, the way that we knew we needed to show up, I just hesitated because I knew it wasn't in alignment. So when I pivoted into alignment with my coaching business and found like, okay, this is where I want to grow. I'm willing to do pretty much anything to grow this business because I love every single part of it. And I can see myself in the future doing something in this area for the rest of my life. Not saying you have to have that vision, but it made it's such a different approach for me. So if maybe the business that you're trying to build right now, you're just doing it because somebody said that you can make money. Like somebody just right now is in my DMs and she's like, I do MMR and I'm trying to sell high ticket programs. And I'm like, okay, have you sold any? No, but I'm teaching people how to sell high ticket programs. And I'm like, wait, what?
Oh my gosh.
Right. But one
Uh,
of her friends had crazy success with this, and she's just trying to make money the way somebody else did. She's not passionate about it. She doesn't believe in it. She's just like, somebody said, if I throw this up, I will make money. And if that's why you're hiring a coach, then it's never going to work. And that's also probably why you're hesitating.
but if you do have a business that you're on fire about and you know you want to grow and you vetted the coach and you're like, that is the coach for me, and you're still not investing, then we go back to that it is costing you more to wait. The cost of waiting could be the whole success of your business. And from what I've seen, I think Lonnie has seen this too. When you do join a program with the right coach, with the right business, and you go all in, you make your investment back so quickly.
Yes. And I reminded myself when I first got started in investing, and I now share the same story with my own clients as they ask me questions and potential clients, is I did not have the full amount for my first coaching program. I was like, I know I can pay the first month. I'm pretty sure I could pay the second month, but three, four, five, six, but maybe, probably. I know I can earn money. I know I could get scrappy. I know I can figure it out. And so I had to build a little bit of belief and trust in myself and in that coach. And I was upfront with her and I said, I'm coming to this. I don't know how I'm going to make all the payments, but I know I can make the first three. And so I'm going to go all in. And my first goal is to be able to pay this program off. That was my goal. I was like, I don't want to be doing a monthly payment. I want to be able to pay you in full, but I don't have that money today. So she's like, okay, then let's go for it. But she reminded me too, is I don't want you just to think that we're just going to recoup the cost of this program. The goal is to 10x it. And I really loved that response from her. I was like, okay, then let's do that. And I made my money back within the first 30 days. And I doubled my investment back in the next 60 days and then tripled my income after that. So it was it was scary because, I'm a mom of six and that's taking money from my family. So I get it. I get how important, how big these investments are. We're not minimizing that. But I also know how accelerated my success was because I had somebody in my corner just keeping me on focus, keeping me on track. Don't get distracted. Put up the blinders, tweak this, see this mistake that you're making, see where you're not showing up for yourself. All of that is game changer. So if you're thinking, okay, I'm listening, I'm gonna do it scared. Is you just have to do it scared. That's one of my favorite quotes is do it scared. I really need some t-shirts that say that. Maybe bracelets, putting it on the list for merch. But we have to do things scared sometimes. And there's a lot of unknowns in business, but there's a lot of unknowns right now with 9 to 5 jobs and corporate jobs. Yeah, there's nothing guaranteed. And what we do know is if you can find somebody who is all in on you and your success and in supporting you, that's going to make a huge difference in impact in your business. Kate, as we wrap up, what what would you say to somebody who's like, all right, I'm looking at taking that next step. I'm ready to research, book a consult. What should they do? What should we think about? And then also let's tell them a little bit about what we do in our program and what the process is for interviewing us and saying, are you a good fit?
Yeah. So first of all, make sure you're ready to go all in. Make sure you're ready to like put the work in to grow your business and make kind of like a goal list. Like, what do I want my business to look like this time next year? What do I want it to look like in 5 years? So that when you do go talk to a coach, you can share like really clear goals with them. Hopefully, they'll be upfront with you about like how they can help you achieve those. And then I think it's okay to book multiple calls. Like look around at a few different coaches, book multiple calls and make a comparison because you don't like we don't want you just to book with us. We want when you book with us for you to see like the difference in what we offer. Because
Mhm.
Empower for More is really unique for any program out there. And we want people in it who are going to come in and get massive success. And we actually don't invite people in who we don't think can get a massive success. Do you want to tell
Yeah.
them like about the program, Lonnie?
Yes, and that's exactly my barriers. I don't want just anybody to join, so you can't go on the website and just click buy because we are very hold a high standard integrity of like if you come into this program, we want to get you success. So the program that we designed, Empowered for More, is unique in the fact that it is a community-based action support program where we come in together with a community of coaches, a community of other business women to support you, to help you along your journey. And then we help customize your actions and your results to work for you, your business, your energy, your personality, the time that you have for the goals that you have. So our ours program is not a one size fits all. We're going to design the business to fit you with the support that you need. So we're hyper customized, hyper uh, the high value on taking empowered action, empowering yourself, and then also simple action. If you want a complicated strategy and hustle culture, don't come to our group. That is not what it is. What we want is simple, easy, sustainable, flexible strategies that get high results. If you are curious about Empowered for More and learning more about the program, two things. One, you can DM Kate on Facebook anytime. You can DM myself. You can check out, we do have a small landing page just to give you a little visual of the program. And then you could book a call or put an application in to see if you're a good fit. But we also have a lot of coaches in the group. We in the society, there's a lot of coaches out there. In this episode, and if you made it this long, thanks for hanging out with us. This is a longer episode, but we didn't make this episode to just be like, you should hire us, because we know there's coaches for different stages and ages of businesses and people and industries. And there's a lot of amazing coaches out there. We love some of them. Some of them are really good friends. And if I heard that you were working with them, I'd be like, oh, yes, you are going to get so much transformation. So we're not the only ones out there. That's not what this episode is about. My dream, my hope is that every woman gets the support she needs to get the success she wants. Whether it's working with us, you finding somebody to connect with in the society and hiring someone. I mean, that's the goal. That's the vision, because there's enough business around here for all of us, number one. And we couldn't serve all 8,300 women in the society anyways. No offense, but I would die. But we really want you to just see where your needs are, and don't waiting for perfect, waiting for tomorrow, waiting for Friday, waiting for summer, waiting for when the kids are this age, waiting for fill in the blank. The waiting is not driving action.
Yeah, don't wait your life away.
Exactly. And if I could go back, that's what I would tell my younger self in business, is say, you keep waiting for that secret, for that thing that you think is going to just magic wand everything. That thing that you're missing, I wasn't missing anything. I wasn't missing any knowledge. I wasn't missing any ideas. I was just missing action and support. That's what I was missing more than anything. So if you're resonating with that, it's time. It's time to go get the support that you need so that you can make it to the NFL or the $1 Million Club or whatever that big goal is. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you on another episode next week. And again, thanks, Kate, for joining me and talking this out. Love every conversation we have.
This has been amazing.
Yes, it's been good. So, all right, we'll talk to you soon. See you next week, guys, and have a great day. Thanks for actually joining us today. I hope it inspired you to actually take the action to step into the empowered CEO that you are and getting more of the results that you want. Before you go, I have a quick favor. Leave us a review and take a screenshot of this episode and share it with your friends and on your favorite social media channels. Don't forget to tag us, actually.the podcast, and Lonnie J. Jackson. And we'll see you next week on another episode.